In the United States, there are 20 million people diagnosed with diabetes and 8 million people undiagnosed. Diabetes can affect anyone, even you.
The body is made of trillions of cells. That's a million that need energy to function. And after we tell you what is happening in your body, we'll show you how to take care of yourself. The food you eat is turned into sugar, which is called glucose. And glucose travels to all of your cells through the bloodstream. Inside your body is an organ called the pancreas. The pancreas makes something called insulin, which helps all those cells in your body use the glucose.
Your cells need the glucose to grow and get the power they need.
If you have diabetes, your body has trouble controlling the level of glucose in your blood. Either your pancreas isn't making enough insulin, or your cells aren't reacting to the insulin the way they should.
Insulin is a hormone that our body is produced by the pancreas. The beta cells are actually producing the insulin. What happens is when our body has introduced any type of sugar, carbohydrates, we need carbohydrates for energy. We get energy in our body two ways. One, the food we eat. The other is developed by the liver. The liver puts out some glucose into our body for energy. Insulin, we kind of like label insulin like a key. And what happens is insulin is needed to carry the carbohydrates or the glucose, which is the simple sugar. And it carries the glucose to our cells for energy. Insulin actually is like that key that will actually unlock the cell doors and actually bring the glucose to our cells for energy. Now, if our body does not produce enough insulin, there may not be enough insulin keys to unlock the cell door. End result is higher glucose in your bloodstream. What type 2 diabetes is the disease that has the impairment of the pancreas. Either it not able to produce enough insulin and the insulin is not working well.
And that's not good. How do we know if we have this?
Some symptoms are too much thirst or hunger, peeing too often, weight loss, tiredness, changes in vision, slow healing cuts, and itching of your skin that goes on and on.
How are you? I'm Uncle Bob, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I became a diabetic. It actually started when I was much younger. I got my blood tested regularly by my doctor, and I found out that I was a borderline diabetic probably at the age of like 6, 7, 8, where I had to watch what I ate for about a month, went back and got retested and found out I was just eating too much sugar. So I had to slow down my intake of sugar when I was a child. As I got older in life, it really never became an issue until I was the age of 40. One night I was out with all my coworkers, having a few drinks. The next morning I woke up, I was sweating. I went to the bathroom all night long. I went over to my mother house, who's also a diabetic, and she tested my sugar, and it was like 485, which is way, way, way above normal blood sugar, which is 80 to 120. Immediately, my mother babies me, took me to the doctor and checked my blood and found out that I was on the verge of becoming a diabetic, where my doctor immediately put me on metformin, which is a pill that helps diabetics. I was on that for about 3 days. There was no relief in my sugar coming down, and that's when they put me right on insulin.
To switch over to type 1 diabetes, this usually occurs in a person who is young, a person who is thin, in other words, not heavy, or some virus affected and actually killed your beta cells that cannot produce any more insulin whatsoever. So because of that, your body now is deficient of the hormone called insulin.
So, my name is Kelly. I was diagnosed as a diabetic at the age of 8. So, that was in April of 1992. Um, I was sick for a couple of weeks and was back and forth to the doctors. I lost like 13 pounds. I was drinking a lot, going to the bathroom a lot. Um, and they took a test, and I was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic.
How do you diagnose having diabetes? Well, basically, it's done at the doctor's office. A doctor may, or he might write a prescription out for a blood test. When a fasting blood test is done, and a fasting means anything without food 8 hours before the test is actually done, 8 to 12 hours. If we have a level of fasting blood sugar level below 100, that means you have a normal pancreas that develops enough insulin and you do not have any type 1 or type 2 diabetes. If your level is anywhere from 101 to 125, this levels kind of tell you that it's slightly abnormal, meaning that it is not, it's a little higher than the 100 level, of course, but it means that your blood sugars have, like maybe we would call it a blood, like an intolerance, meaning that you have some abnormal blood sugar levels, but they're nothing, and then we kind of diagnose this as what we would call pre-diabetes. That's where maybe your insulin basically is working, but maybe sometimes it's not working so well. And we kind of look at the person saying, okay, you're a little overweight, your cholesterol level might be a little high, you might have a little high blood pressure. I kind of put these things together and say, okay, maybe what we would like for you to do is maybe start looking about maybe losing some weight, even just that 5 to 10% of your body weight, looking about your healthy diet, try not to skip meals and try to eat the 3 meals. You can actually then, and that's what we call pre-diabetes, you can actually bring that to a normal level and you don't have any diabetes. How we diagnose having type 2 diabetes, it's a lot of different things. One of the things that we're just talking blood work, lab work is it's a fasting blood sugar of 126 or higher. And it's not just one test. The doctor might ask you to come back another week or two and draw up have another level drawn. And if it's too consistent, 120 up higher, 126 or higher, then we actually establish that you have type 2 diabetes. We also look at something else. We look at the signs and symptoms of the person. A, if they're overweight, but also increased thirst, increased urination, increase tiredness. And I'm not just talking about the normal tiredness. Maybe a sore that's not healing well, itchy, dry skin. These are increased weight. These are some things that we actually look at. It's not just the weight increase, but the heaviness, the obesity that can occur to having insulin resistance and then to continue onward. These are things that we actually do. We actually see where this also is type 2, another way of diagnosing type 2 diabetes. There's another blood test out there that we also use, and they are starting to now recognize this as also we establish this. It's called a hemoglobin A1C. And what this is we get a new red blood cell every 3 months. What happens is we actually draw we draw blood. We're actually measuring the sugar coating on this red blood cell. If you don't have diabetes, you don't have that much sugar coating on that red blood cell, and that hemoglobin A1C is less than 5.4%. If you have a little bit, of sugar coating on it, 5.5 to 6.4 is pre-diabetes, and anything above 6.5 and higher has another way we diagnose having type 2 diabetes. We get a new red blood cell every 3 months, so it actually can change every 3 months. And what it does is, and I kind of explain this to my patients, my clients that we teach classes, and basically I kind of explain it like, if you think of this, it's like a video camera of like taping your red blood cell for 3 months, and that gives like an average of what your blood sugars have been. versus just checking your blood sugar where you just stick your finger and you have a little bit of capillary blood from your finger and just taking your blood sugar by that meter. Basically, that just kind of gives you an idea what this blood sugar is right here, right now. Kind of shows the effects of my medication, the effects of my activity, the effects of the food I'm eating. And all that together kind of gives you that one little tiny snapshot picture where a hemoglobin A1C gives you a 3-month video to see what the average is all throughout the day, evening, and night, even during the time that you're sleeping. And that's what this is. A hemoglobin A1C of less than 7% is our goal to keep, to know that your blood sugars, your diabetes is all in check.
In some cases, people with diabetes need to take daily insulin shots. Sometimes you can control this disease through diet and exercise, and taking medication by mouth. Your doctor can help you with a diet and medication plan so that your blood sugar is regulated.
As I mentioned before, I'm going to get into just showing you a little bit about my daily routine of being a diabetic. Wake up in the morning, I come downstairs and I just show you a few of my supplies. This is a blood sugar meter. This reads my blood to see where I'm at, either high, low, or perfect. These are test strips, and what this does, this goes into the meter, and then when I prick my finger, which I'll show you how that works, I put a little bit of blood on the end of the test strip. It goes into the meter, and it reads my current sugar. This is the lancet. It has a little needle on the end of it. Prick my fingers. Blood is drawn. Put it on the test strip into the meter. There you have your sugar reading. Once I have my sugar reading, and I decide what I'm going to eat for that morning, let's just say we're starting with breakfast, I'll take, there's some calculations based on meeting with my diabetic doctor that if I'm eating X amount of carbs, and let's just use even numbers and say if I'm eating 60 carb units, I'll divide 3 into 60, which is my unit count for insulin, and come up with 20 units. So in my Novolog pen, and Novolog is one form of insulin that is a fast-acting insulin, which normally breaks down within 3 hours. But I'll take 20 units of Novolog, and if my sugar level before breakfast is at normal level, I don't have to increase or decrease the amount of insulin I take. So if I take 20 units for my meal, I'll crank the pen up to 20 units. These are called Novolog Flex pens, to 20 units. I will put the tip of the syringe, the needle, on top, screw it in. With an alcohol pad, you have to put it either on your stomach, anything that has a little bit of fat, you can say. And I would insert the insulin, push the button with the flex pen, and it goes in my body. Normally, I would let that sit for 5-10 minutes until I either order breakfast or make myself something to eat, and then I would just eat my meal and move on. I do this for the same routine for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The one different side of it is if my my sugar is high, then I take the high amount over my base of 120. If it's 220, then I'll take an extra 5 units of insulin because I take the high part and divide it by 20. So if it's 220, and I know it's a little bit much, less my normal blood sugar of 120, the high is 100, and I would divide that by 20 and take an additional 5 units of Novolog to help bring my sugar down to a normal blood sugar level. Once I do that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, before I go to bed, there's another flex pen, another insulin called Levemir. Levemir is a long-acting insulin, which will take me from the night until the morning, try to keep my blood levels in line with no high or low blood sugar drops or increases. So that would be a total of 4 needles throughout the whole day. And that's my daily routine.
All right, my daily routine as diabetic is I wake up in the morning, I check my blood sugar, um, and adjust it if it's high or low. I adjust my insulin. Then I eat my breakfast. I put in how many carbs I'm eating into my pump, and it calculates the amount of insulin that I need along with whatever my blood sugar is. Then 2 hours later, after I eat, I check my blood sugar again, um, and adjust my insulin to a high or low reading. Then I have lunch, check my blood sugar again, put in the amount of carbs that I'm eating for lunch. Same thing. 2 hours later, test my blood sugar after that, see where it's at. Then I have dinner, check my blood sugar, adjust it to the carbs, check my blood sugar 2 hours later, and then I have a bedtime snack, check my sugar again, and adjust my insulin. So this is my insulin pump. It is attached to this tube that is in a catheter in my stomach. You just basically push all these buttons here. Right here I can put in how many carbs I had. And here I can put in my blood sugar, and it does all the calculation itself, so I don't really have to think about anything. It tells me how much insulin I have left in there. It tells me how much insulin I have on board right now and how much time is left. So I have 3 hours and 24 minutes of the insulin that's in me right now. This is probably my third insulin pump. This is a new version, so I'm liking this one a lot better. But there's my pump.
I know some healthy foods: fruit, vegetables, whole grains, fish, nuts, beans.
And you need to exercise too. Getting good exercise really helps your body control your glucose levels.
Is there a way to prevent diabetes? Well, there is a way to prevent or at least decrease the long-term complications. One way is absolutely think about having healthy habits. Part of it is healthy eating habits. There's no such thing as a diabetic diet. People used to think of that many years ago, but really it's healthy eating. Try to eat 3 meals a day. Try to make your plate a little bit more desirable than just a whole plate of pasta. Try to trim that down to what we call this actually the plate method. We basically think about getting a 9-inch plate, dividing it in half, and then dividing 1/2 of that to a quarter. The big major half of that plate should be fruits and vegetables. The quarter of it should be just your carbohydrates, which is your breads, your grains, pasta. Try to trim that down. Fruit and vegetables are carbohydrates, but they're more of a healthier choice. Then the other portion is just your protein, like your lean meat, fish. Also in the carbohydrate section that I was talking about, potatoes. So again, potatoes, pasta, bread. Try to decrease your cookies and all your nice, lovely food that a lot of people like gravitate to eat. But we never said you cannot eat that. But by actually eating healthier, watching your weight, by going to your doctor, by getting your your labs drawn periodically, you may be able to decrease the incidence of actually occurring type 2 diabetes. One thing though is type 2 diabetes is hereditary. So you may do everything correctly, but now your doctor still tells you have type 2 diabetes. It's genetically passed from your ancestors. Also high ethnicity. Your African American and your Hispanics and your Asian Islanders also have a higher incidence of actually developing type 2 diabetes. Again, though, by trying to live a healthier life, healthier habits, and we encourage people, if you do, when you do develop type 2 diabetes, diabetes education is the best way of learning about the disease process because diabetes is a progressive disease. What helps today might not help tomorrow. So understanding of changing your habits, living a healthy life, increasing your activity, taking your medications at the correct timing. All this together pretty much helps to maintain and keep your blood sugars in a healthy range. But again, if you don't follow up with the doctor, if you slack off and not monitor your blood sugars, and we use that monitoring your blood sugars as a tool, a gauge, not for the doctor, but more for you to gauge to see what's going on, the effects of the food, the effects of my activity, the effects of my medication. Do I need more medication? Do I not need this medication anymore? Absolutely. If somebody has been started on insulin and then changed towards the healthier habits and increased healthier habits with your dietary needs and increasing your activity, and you lost some weight, sure, you can actually decrease your possibility of already diagnosed having type 2 diabetes, but you may come off the insulin, you may go on pills, and some people actually have gotten themselves off of everything. And you actually postpone the long-term complications. You actually are decreasing the incidence of that. Again, I'm going to reflect. Controlled diabetes does not cause the complications. It's the uncontrolled diabetes that can cause the complications.
Keep your body moving.
Dance!
But even when you're as active as Daniel, you still need to check your blood sugar level regularly. Your doctor will show you how, and in no time, you'll be able to do it yourself.
Once I became a diabetic, it affected my lifestyle pretty good. I mean, it was a lot of things that I had to change, I should say. One major thing is I have to check my blood 4 or 5 times a day. I have to take insulin 4 times a day, and the biggest part of my lifestyle change was my food intake. I don't Very rarely do I eat anything that has any sugar in it. I don't have candy. I try to limit my carb intake. Anything that produces sugar, which is going to affect my blood sugar, I eliminate it from my intake 99%. Um, when I go out to dinner, I need to take my supplies to check my blood sugar before I go and order something, so I know how much insulin I have to take to keep my blood levels in line. Um, going on vacations, going anything, any snack, anything affects just my whole lifestyle and what I eat with. It's very difficult. It plays a lot of emotional parts with your mind, and but fortunately, I have to deal with it, and thank God there's medication that can help you live with it, as many years ago you couldn't live with diabetes.
Being diagnosed with diabetes altered my lifestyle because I was only 8 years old at first, and back when I was diagnosed, it was just a strictly no sugar diet. Now things have changed, and we count carbs, and that's how we give our insulin. We can have sugar as long as we give ourselves insulin. So it was a big change when I was 8 years old. I really didn't even understand it at that point. Very hard on my parents, but I got through it.
And I've learned that sometimes, you know, if they've actually learned to live a healthier life, change some of their habits, understanding that eating healthy is already a must, learning about increasing your activity, they realize that their blood sugars are better controlled. They realize that actually they are now off insulin and now they're on pills. Some of these people feel much better too because they feel they have the energy. They're not as tired, and they're able to move around.
The hardest part about being a diabetic, it's only hard if you make it hard. I don't tend to make it hard because this is my new lifestyle. So this is my average day. I do what I do every day because I have to. It's just like getting up in the morning and taking a shower and brushing your teeth and shaving your face and going to school or going to work. It's something that I have to do. So it's not really hard for me anymore. It's tolerable. I have to do it. I don't have a choice. So I tend to deal with it. It's my lifestyle. I deal with it. I focus with it, and hopefully there'll be a cure for it, and then I won't have to. But until then, it's not hard for me. I deal with it. Um, I got it from my mother, my grandmother. My dad's a borderline diabetic. You know what I mean?
The hardest part of being a diabetic is the extra responsibility, always having to do extra things to make sure that you get through the day correctly. Keeping your blood sugars in the normal range is very difficult. Also, just thinking of all the complications that could happen on later in life, such as losing your eyesight. Um, you have to watch your kidneys, um, and a lot of other complications that can happen.
So there's too much glucose running around in your blood.
And that's a bad thing?
Yes. Having too much or too little glucose in your blood can damage your heart, blood vessels, kidneys, brain, and nerves, and cause eyesight that gets worse and worse over many years.
And education is a must for somebody who has diabetes to learn about the disease process. And a lot of it is due to A, they're following up with their doctor, B, they're actually understanding how to live with diabetes. And C, they're actually now engaged in trying to learn to change some of their behaviors. If you're engaged in wanting to learn to change your behaviors, this will help you to better manage your diabetes, help you feel better, and help you be healthier. Some of the people really say, you know what, I'm understanding more about this. I am starting to feel better. And yes, I realize that, this changing some of my habits, learning more about monitoring my blood sugar is helpful to help identify where I may need to change some of my lifestyle. No.
You are not alone.
Of course they're not alone. We're right here.
No, I mean, they're not alone because they have diabetes. This affects millions of people every year.
Millions? Is there a cure?
Unfortunately, there is no cure. But there is treatment.
I think there will be a cure for diabetes. Very recently, they have done a lot of research with the stem cells. So I was very optimistic at first, but I think it's coming anytime soon.
Do I ever think there'll be a cure for diabetes? Well, there it is, cure diabetes. I actually do, and either it's just because I'm hopeful or I really believe it. I think I'm both, and the reason why I'm hopeful is because I don't want to keep checking my blood like this for the rest of my life. I hope, and the reason why I think there will be is because there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people every day becoming a diabetic. And I think there has to be some type of cure in the future for people to be able to cope with it. Because if you don't cope with it right, it affects your life drastically. And I think there'll be a cure for it because the more people who get it, the more people are going to support and rally about it and put money and effort to getting a cure so they can live with it. Everything, and you should all think out there, but everything you eat, if you just turn it around and look up the ingredients in it, the carbs that are in it, the fats that are in some of the things you eat, affects diabetes. And everyone eats that way daily. That's just either we're working too much, or we're in school too much, or we're in sports, or homework, or college, or whatever it entails. You eat on the fly, and anytime you eat these fast foods, as good as it tastes, it affects diabetes probably the worst. So I'm hopeful that they have a cure for it, so people can live normal again and worry about, the average day instead of worry about taking needles and checking your blood. But guess what? If there is none, and you do what I do, every day, at least you can be around to deal with your family and friends and work. Like I said in the beginning, because many many years ago you couldn't live with diabetes, and thank God with artificial insulin that I can be here today with my family and friends. So I don't make it hard anymore. I'm a diabetic. I'm proud of it, and if I can help anyone out there change the way they are with the way they drink or eat or take care of themselves by this video, I think it's not that hard. I think it's only hard if you make it hard.
That's why it's very important for people with diabetes to take care of themselves.